Okay, Rob, go ahead.
Okay. All right, this is a diorama depiction of JG2 in late 1943. And what it shows is the 1/24 scale Airfix Fw-190, the kit that was released in 1980. I purchased that kit in England in 1980. And when I took the cellophane off the box for the first time was just before I built it. So I've had this model for many, many, many years. I built all of the previous models that Airfix made for the in 24th scale, and some of them are okay. The newer stuff that they make now, like their Mosquito, their Hellcat, and their Typhoon, and their new Mark 9 Spitfire are much, much better. This model, unfortunately, was a really bad kit. It had a lot of flaws in it. In particular, the fuselage itself was warped in such a way that I spent hours holding the fuselage pads over a candle to straighten it out. And I never got everything out of it. I mean, I did the best I could. Also, the model comes with open gun bays, but all they give you is the gun. There's no detail in the wing, no ammo cans, nothing. So when you look at this 20mm cannon here on the left wing root, with the exception of the gun, everything else in there is scratch built. The same thing can be said about the engine bay. They give you an engine, which is actually a pretty good engine, and an upper machine gun bay. But again, all they gave you is just the engine, the exhaust stacks, the guns, the accessory section. Everything else in there is scratch built. Wow. Including all the plumbing, the electrical wiring and stuff. I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of books on the Fw-190. That's one of my favorite airplanes. They had some really beautiful photographs of survivor aircraft interior, especially the engine bay. So I was able to do a lot of direct copy work in scratch building.
All the cylinder heads you made?
No, the cylinder heads are actually the kit. There, and there are flaws in, as you can see, the exhaust stacks and the intake manifolds are poorly designed for the kit, and I tried my best to get them to fit right. I don't want to take up too much time, so does anybody have any questions about the Fw-190 itself before I go on to the car?
How much was the fuel tank price? Original price? Do you buy it?
Yes, the original price after you convert from pounds to dollars was less than $12.
Oh, wow.
That was back in 1980. Now this kit's
That's
been
before you were born.
this kit was repopped about 5 times, and I can tell you right now, all the repopping all they did was just change the decals and the box art. In fact, there was a guy on eBay that was selling one of these, and he was nice enough to take out all the sprues and show them so you on eBay before you sold the kit. Right. And the kit was literally covered in flash because it's been repopped so many times. The molds are so bad, and the guy still wanted over $100 for the kit, which I thought was ridiculous.
Who was
Yes.
the manufacturer?
Airfix.
Airfix? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Airfix, they were known for crappy aircraft and stuff, right?
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, yeah.
Well, when they went pretty close, they went out of business for about 4 years, and then the Tandy, not Tandy. Well, what was one of the metal car company that bought
Corgi.
them? Huh?
Corgi, wasn't it?
Corgi, that's right. They brought them back, and then they sold a few more of their old models and stuff like that, and they were able to make a little money, and then eventually they rehashed the entire company. And then in the late 90s, they reintroduced their 24th scale series, starting with the Mosquito. And that kit is superb. I mean, that's up there with Tamiya as far as
a lot of their new aircraft are really excellent.
Yeah.
They're redesigned, new molds.
yeah, all
and
new
everything.
molds. Yeah, it's all redone. Yeah.
Is that the original decal?
Yes, these are the original decal. In fact, when I opened the box was, the model was in a plastic bag and everything, and the rubber tires were missing. So in the box, you get this little form in the old Airfix kits that you write in, say, hey, what's missing, you send it in. I haven't gotten a reply yet. Lucky for me, I also have the Trumpeter 1/24 scale Fw-190 D9 that comes with 2 sets of tires. The earlier crosshatch tread tires and the later circular tread tires. And amazingly enough, the tires fit on these rims perfectly.
Those are rubber tires?
No, these aren't. They're plastic. On the Trumpeter kit, they're plastic. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. These were plastic.
Yeah.
But the other tread on the Trumpeter kit, those were rubber tires or nylon, whatever you want to call them. But these fit right onto the Airfix rims perfectly. No modifications required. So the scaling was pretty close.
Even the Eagle, Black Eagle,
Those are decals.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, as we know, all the old Airfix kits had really, really thick decals.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when I opened the box, when I went to build a model, I confronted, instead of a decal sheet, I confronted a cannoli. This thing had curled itself up into a cannoli. And then I was really scared to open it up because I was afraid the decals would crack. So for the first time in many years, I looked at the back of the decal sheet, and I didn't know that Airfix insists on putting their decals in warm to hot water. It says it on the decal sheet. I've always used cold water. So I put them in hot water. I took the whole, actually when it came time to put the decals, I put the whole cannoli in the water, and this thing unrolled itself, and all the decals separated by themselves, and they went on, as you see. And then I put 4 applications of Walther's decal solution on to get them to flatten out, because they were so thick. But these are the original decals that came with the kit.
That's amazing.
I want to know when you get a response, because I've been sending in those Revell cards, and I still haven't got.
Oh, yeah, well, like I said, yeah. Okay, any other questions about the 190?
You acrylic? You paint acrylic?
Negative. I use nothing but enamels. I use enamel paint. I don't use acrylics. I don't like acrylics.
So what's the story with this guy holding up the wing?
Oh yeah. Because the
Oh.
landing gear's off the table.
Because the airplane shifted.
Yeah.
Okay?
There you go.
There you go.
Ruining the story.
He was getting a headache. I'm glad you said something.
But you know what? That figure is a figure of General Spiro, and man, he can hold that wing up. Hugo Spiro was a man. I mean, that field marshal was one hell of a guy. Anyway, the car is the IMC 124th scale Opel Admiral is the name of the car, the manufacturer and the body style, and it's painted in Field Marshal Sparrow's markings for his car. They give you that in the kit, including his flag. And so I painted it to look like his car. I also found color photographs of that very car. That car survived the war, and it's in the Munich Museum today. And so I was able to match the color. I had to mix the colors to get the right shades. And then IMC also created these 3 figures to go with this model. And I don't know if you've looked at the progress that IMC has with their figures, but these figures, you look at their faces and everything, they're very, very well detailed faces. I mean, it's just, the detail on these figures is fabulous. Okay. The mechanic is a legend. He's part of a 2-man kit, which is a pilot in the cockpit and the guy on the wing for a 109. I had to cut his leg a little bit to reshape it so it would fit on the wing of the Focke-Wulf 190, because the contour of the wing and also the shape of the wing root is different, very different from the 109 and the 190. The pilot figure of Joseph Sepp Wurmfeller I found online, and that is it's made by a company called Legend, and it's a very, very good figure. Legend does really nice 24th and 16th scale figures, and they're pretty reasonably priced. And you can find a lot of them online for low prices. Any questions about the car and the figures?
How many parts were those figures driven on?
What's that?
How many parts?
Well, the ICM parts are actually the fuselage. The upper body, is in halves. The legs are separate. This figure here with the attaché case, for some reason, the boot leg portion was separate from the rest of the leg. The other figures, the boots were incorporated in the legs. They were separate. So to answer your question, one figure has as many as 20 parts. All of the side arms are separate. The attaché case, of course, is separate. The hands are separate from the arms. And also they offer you 2 different heads or headgear. Like he could have worn the Garrison cap or the peaked cap. That was a choice that they gave you. The Field Marshal, of course, he came just the way you see him. I mean, there were no other optional parts on him.
And on the car, the vehicle, the chrome parts, were they?
The chrome parts is as you see them. I did not peel off the chrome and redo the chrome. That kit is out of the box. It's a fabulous model. And you know how most car models, the body is pretty much one piece and the chassis is usually one piece. This kit, the The center part of the sides of the bodies is separate from the fenders. The fenders are separate from the front and rear. The three-piece area in the back, the trunk area, is separate from the fenders. The whole interior is completely separate. The chassis, the ladder chassis underneath the car is made up of about 12 components. Wow. The front suspension alone had over 20 parts to it. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful challenge.
Did it lay straight? I mean, even?
I've had so much bad experiences with car models with separate chassis and things that I created my own jig. So that when I build a chassis, all four wheels will be touching the ground, which is a problem with a lot of car models, because the chassis don't square up right. The engine compartment, again, is as you see it. The only thing I put in there was the wiring.
I think you get the firing order out.
I don't know if that car was a diesel or gas.
Gasoline. It's a six-cylinder Opel engine. Like I said, this is representing the meeting between the commander of Luftflotte 3, which is an area that covered half of France, all of Belgium, and all of Holland, commanded by Field Marshal Sparrow, around March of 1943, 1944, when Wormweller was one of the pioneering pilots that came up with the idea of attacking B-17s and B-24s from the front. Okay? Other pilots came up with the idea of doing it with multiple aircraft. He was the one that did it singularly. And of course, his victories show that his the tail markings here show that the twin bars with the star in the center, they represent a B-17 or a B-24. His final score was 102 victories, of which 93 were in the West. The rest were on the Russian front. And he's credited with 16 B-17s and B-24s. He's one of the highest scoring four-engine pilot guys. He was shot down a week after June 6th by thunderbolts. He was shot down and killed a week after.
He was killed, huh?
Oh, yeah, he was killed. Yeah.
How old was he? Do you know?
Oh, he was in his 20s. This book, although it's very old, it came out in 1977, is still one of the best books about the Luftwaffe.
Oh, yes.
It's been reprinted several times, and
Publishers, yeah.
Arrow Publishers, yeah. And I've actually met Tolliver at a gathering of Luftwaffe pilots. Really nice guy.
Oh, great guy. Yeah, great author. Yeah.
Yeah, and this book is when I first bought it, I just couldn't put it down. I read it cover to cover. I've read this book at least 4 times, and I still use it as my main reference when I'm building models.
Isn't Tolliver the guy who wrote the biography also with
Eric Hartman.
Hartman?
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm reading it right now, and it's written exactly the same way. I can't
Oh yeah.
put it down.
Yeah.
It's keeping me up too late.
Yeah. Let's see if you mentioned here, if I'm not mistaken. I think it talks about, it shows in here all of the books that Tolliver and, what's this other guy's name? Constable?
Yeah.
Yeah, Constable.
It might be in the rear. Usually they put
Oh, right here.
additional publication.
Authors of Fighter Aces, Horaido, and The Blonde Knight of Germany.
Yep.
Yeah.
Germany, yep.
Yep. I have that book.
Can I take a peek at that?
I was fortunate to have it signed by Eric Hartman himself.
Really?
I met the
really?
man twice. Yeah.
Oh, you're a lucky man.
Yeah, both times he was still both times he was the head general of the modern Luftwaffe. And he showed up at our base. We were based in at a forward operating base at Alhorn in Germany, and he showed up in his 2-seater 104. That was a beautiful airplane.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I bet.
I've got a Hasegawa 32nd scale F-86 Sabre in his markings.
Really?
Yeah, and it was a limited production kit that I actually found the kit in Europe. I haven't built it yet. I'm looking forward to building it.
That's very cool.
It's a beautiful. It's got the tulip thing on the front of the airplane, just like
Yes.
all his airplanes had.
Right.
Yeah. His 104 didn't have that. He didn't have the. In fact, we didn't know who he was until he.